There are so many things in the world that want to weaken you, make you docile, make you cattle with an open wallet so that they can do those things for you for a nominal fee. Well, drop those things off a cliff and say, I can do it myself. Or at the very least, I can learn how to. This is Skillpunk. So, Skillpunk, what even is that? Well, the one sentence pitch is that Skillpunk is an anti-consumerist, anti-corporate philosophy lifestyle thing that focuses on fighting the parts of the world that try to weaken you by saying, no, I can do this myself, or at least the very least I can learn how to do it. I don't need your product or service, and I don't want to pay you to do this for me. Around 6 months ago, my hands started to ache when I typed, and someone I know who was attending massage school at the time observed that, well, I was showing early signs of repetitive stress injury, an RSI, if you've seen it. If you haven't, it's a chronic condition that usually affects the hands. Carpal tunnel is a common form of it, and it showed me that there was a huge problem in my life that I needed to fix pretty immediately. To dive into what Skillpunk is a little bit further, I can best explain through how I got there. I was inspired primarily by the right to repair movement. It fights big manufacturers' anti-repairable practices such as arbitrary gluing, proprietary tools where normal ones would work, and straight up banning non-brand owned shops from buying replacement parts. Core pieces of technology such as phones, laptops, or even tractors are being thrown away when they could easily be fixed. If only these companies would allow anyone to do so. This fight led me to question if a similar interaction was happening with people, making it so that we are dependent on corporations to function in basic ways because of arbitrary and limiting factors. At this point, I started researching what caused RSIs as well as what I could do about it. It turns out that the most likely culprit in my life was typing, and that lineage from typewriters to keyboards. This weird stagger of the columns, my wrists tilted sideways from how they normally rest, and the almost random placement of the keys on the board. I realized it was damaging my hands, and I needed to change something with how I interacted with the digital world. I was immediately advertised a $400 replacement keyboard from Logitech that would solve all the problems in my life. If only I had the $400. Every year, it seems like I hear more and more stories of how millennials and Gen Zers are pathetic and useless. Many people have either lost or never learned how to do their own taxes, maintain their own cars, computers, or even phones. I've talked to so many folks my age who had no idea that the common person reasonably could repair clothes that were torn, stained, or even roughed up without some special sewing machine. And that's not even the half of it. Speaking of loss, shop class is a rare find in the modern day school system, and so is home ec. I went to college with so many people, guys, girls, and NBs alike, who had no idea how to cook food outside the microwave. All of those people relied on businesses, frequently gigantic chain corporations, to bridge the gap in their skill sets, losing money and feeding the all-consuming beast we call capitalism. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who had the issue and couldn't afford that mass market $400 solution. Many others were dealing with carpal tunnel, trigger finger, and so much worse. But they had a solution. And because I was lucky and I knew early, I could build my own tool to prevent a chronic injury that would haunt my entire life. Before we move too far onward, I know I've missed some of the things in that list of important life skills, so if you're a millennial or younger, feel free to sound off in the comments about similar things that we haven't been taught to do but could learn. And older generations, please let me know what else we may not even realize we lost, especially things that have been made more complicated or more regulated or more difficult to do in any ways that really are useless and arbitrary. I could build my own keyboard. This would reduce the stress from that form factor that most typists had to deal with every day. Turns out that there was an open source project called the Ferris Sweep, made by Pierre Chevalier, David Burr, Ibnu Daru Ajit, and Duccio. The GitHub is linked in the description. And for those of you who don't know, open source means completely free. No charge, no royalties, nothing. The licensing agreement is 1 page, and like 90% of that is just defining terms so that they can say, yeah, in this one paragraph, all of it is fine. Do whatever you want with this. The plans and list are just out there with a million tutorials on how to assemble and solder. So I watched those tutorials. I found the parts, and I built my own, very own Ferris Sweep keyboard. That is the moment Skillpunk became real. That was the first cycle of fighting something that weakened me, specifically by rejecting the wallet option. Of course, there was so much more learning and real skill-based practice to do on this. I had to figure out how to type with only a third of the keys a normal keyboard had. I defined that I wanted to learn Workman and alternate layout way better than QWERTY, and honestly safe for my hands too. And I had to get myself up to a decent typing speed from 0. But that's a story for another day. For now, know this. Skillpunk is the process that starts when you find a problem in your life, a weakness or gap in your knowledge, an arbitrary barrier put up by someone else. And instead of buying your way out of it, do your research, find your own solution, and work for it. Fight for the right to repair yourself and your own world situation, rather than let a corpo take that right from you and force you to crawl to them, wallet in hand. And that's that. That's generally what Skillpunk is. At least that's the first draft. For now, I'll bid you all adieu. For those of you with dark skies, good evening. And for those who have bright days, good morning. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, noon, night, whatever time it is in your world. Bye-bye.